519, Public Safety Committee, Counselor Gwaltney,
Here.
Counselor Wolverton, Counselor Jones,
Here.
Counselor Nelms,
Here.
Counselor Harden.
Here.
That's it. Because you just have Wolverton absent, so you got one absent, so you got a quorum of 4.
Okay, quorum. This time I'll entertain a motion to dispense the reading and approve of the minutes from the Public Safety Committee meeting April 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
Counselor Harden made the motion, second by Counselor Nelms. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. I'm sorry, those opposed, no. Ayes have it 4-0. All right, we only have 2 items. They're both under old business. 050223, request for discussion of changes to the traffic calming installation on Morris Boulevard. Counselor Sims referred to Council 4-3 for ascension of ordinance and carryover for further review. I talked to a couple of folks about this. Kale, I don't know if I made it by you. I talked to Counselor Wyatt. This, on the Morris item, I believe since the item was put on the agenda to discuss the changes, and obviously your opinion will weigh heavily. It was put on the agenda to discuss the changes related to the existing installation. The item that was brought as a recommendation, I believe, should go back through the process if we need to make changes to a section further down the street. Do you follow what I'm saying, Mr. Smith?
What do you mean go back through the process?
The traffic calming policy process. Because the installation was part of an initial traffic calming policy process, and then the outcome was the adjustments to the triangle, correct?
Which people are very happy with.
And so have we put
Because we're
it
back at where we were.
have we
back
put
where
it
we
back
started.
where it is?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, John.
And have we had any feedback, to the negative?
Yeah, the residents are
All
ecstatic.
positive?
That they don't have to
Okay.
almost run into a stop sign.
So I think, in my opinion, we've addressed the concerns of this agenda item by putting it back the way it was. So I believe the appropriate measure would be to drop it, unless there's something else that you would like to accomplish.
The only other idea was to do the temporary trailer with the speed, but we've done enforcement. The mayor had several people from police take care of that, so that's helped. And there were a lot of residents who got stopped, got speeding tickets. They weren't happy. I had 2 of them call me angry about that, and I said, I'm sorry, this is what
Make up your mind.
was requested.
I believe
It's
we
what you
said,
wanted.
be careful, take note, that typically the neighbors are the ones that get the speeding
Right.
tickets.
Yeah, but my contention from the very beginning had been, if you drive through there during the day, it's clearly evident you cannot speed through there. Well, at night, when when anyone's parking on the street, you cannot really go through there quickly.
During the day, it's construction vehicles, because there's still a lot of construction activity in the area. I ran down that road.
Oh, yeah,
times
there's a lot of
after.
construction, right now. So, so the only thing that the chief was gonna do, and Mayor, you were gonna facilitate this, just do one of the temporary speed trailer. That was what we were gonna do. That was the only idea we had, but other than that,
Trailer.
trailer,
Yeah,
the temporary, whatever we call that,
And basically, we would just get on the list for that, right? We don't need to keep it on the.
Yeah, that doesn't need to be an agenda item.
so I would move, in light of that, I would move.
Okay, thank
So
you.
we have a motion to
As
drop
long as it's
by
working. Last time
Yes.
I-
Counselor Jones,
Second.
second by Counselor Nelms. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it 4-0. Mr. Mayor, will you reach out to Chief, or should I?
I will.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Our last item, 070323, request for consideration of adjustments to criteria for approval of events impacting normal street flow and access. This is related to foot races or activities that impact anything outside of the normal operation of our streets, typically on 5K race days, 10K race days, etc. I reached out to Ms. Salter 2 weeks ago, I think, and asked if her department had any input in the approval process. They do not. Chief Ross responded with the details and answering questions that I had. So I've got a couple of more questions I want to follow up on before I kind of reference the potential outputs there. Essentially, what Chief Ross said was HPD receives the application. They have a sergeant that reviews it, and it goes to Chief Ross for final approval. And then there are notifications that go out via social media, on their social media and the race organizer's social media. The only thought, and the police that are involved in race day activities are paid by their policy that they have, so it's basically a wage set by HPD, and not paid for by the city of Homewood, so it's just basically off-duty officers. So all of that sounds good. The only piece that I think that may need some adjustment, and we can discuss now or in committee later on once I have the rest of the questions answered, is do we want to change anything about how we notice as a city? And the reason being is I received a couple of complaints and I experienced it on a couple of occasions. Roads get closed, sometimes roads that maybe we need to set a guideline that says if certain roads are closed, notification has to go out, or we put a road sign up, or one of the little, whatever, like a campaign sign essentially that says this road to be closed from 7 to 9 or 7 to 10, whatever the duration is, this date, so that people who live there can see it coming in and kind of plan for it. The one thing that I've noticed is when Manhattan gets used for a lot of these races, you can almost get cut off from getting into our neighborhood, and that's what drove some of the concern from two residents that called me, was they were not allowed to cross Manhattan from Oxmoor to get in the neighborhood, and they just felt like that was inappropriate. Now that was that particular race. I've crossed it before. Typically whoever's at the intersection will like, hey, just give it a second. Once there's a gap, we'll let you through. So I think maybe we just need to decide, do we want the city to use the notification system we have to text out or put on the website or something like that? And additionally, do we want to put any signage up on certain streets that are impacting? If it's a non-thoroughfare street, I don't think it really matters if it gets closed per se, or do we want to do nothing and just use the existing process?
I was gonna tell them that Everbridge, a lot of times, I don't know if
That
Berkeley's still
happens.
here, but like Berkeley will send me things, and Kel too, about sometimes to post on Everbridge, but I don't think we've rolled out, JJ, I don't know if we rolled out to all departments, but I think we can add one too, like if police, I don't know if they have their own way, but like if they wanna have their own Everbridge that you could text a different number than you do the miscellaneous, they could do that, or they could have somebody to do that, or I'm fine to do it too if they let me know. I'm just saying, I think there's capability on Everbridge that they could do that as well. If that makes
What
sense.
if we added a place on our website that says future street closings? People get used to seeing it. Is that realistic? I mean, I don't know how easy that is,
I
and
don't know how
who keeps
frequently
it
people
up.
would see it.
So I was gonna mention a couple things about that. The first, that would be good to do. I don't know about naming with that, but the second part of that is that the information flow will work through that form that will then alert anybody that you want. They can then use Everbridge or whatever, but it should start with that form so that it can then go out from there. Because if it goes through Everbridge, it may not get to me, but on the website or anywhere else. But if it comes through a form, I'll see it first. It'll also go out to all the people that it needs to. And yeah, we could do apply for road closure or something like that.
And I think all that's fine. I do think that something on the streets themselves is.
Probably the simplest.
I mean,
I agree.
People just aren't gonna go look and
Yeah.
it's just- What they are gonna notice, if they're gonna notice anything, is
Pathway
driving
to
down the
travel.
road and the sign that says, hey, on Saturday, we're running through.
Right.
We run.
Bright orange
over in
sign.
Our ward, we run into the same thing with, Roseland, especially when it hits Woodland, lots of times they turn down Woodland, so that intersection gets caught up, Broadway can get caught up.
Yeah, if they get on Ridge, back
Yeah.
toward Oxmoor.
Right,
Yeah.
and so
You're
we
blocked.
run into the same thing, cause that tends to be on almost every route at some
Yeah.
point. And so I just think the signs being out there probably gets noticed a lot more.
This
Yes.
also applies to street closures, for example, you know how we love Homewood Day? People just took it upon themselves to close off their streets for parties without,
We have a process for that.
yes.
But it was
Starts in
kinda
the
free for all.
HPD.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, how do you police that, right? Do you go out and give them a ticket for throwing a cone up and closing the road?
Well, no, they were
Yeah.
throwing inflatables in the middle of the road, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, like every other street, it was like, whoa.
It's like golf carts, right?
Uh-huh, yeah, yeah.
To the extent that there are signs that need to be put up, I would say that is the race organizer's responsibility.
Perfect. I agree 100%.
Or that there is that we increase the fee for the race and some portion of that is going to the signs that.
Yeah, I don't want
we
the
wanna
city to
have
have to
it
pay
in our
for it, right?
control, I'm fine with that, but then I do think that the fee for races needs to go up. Or for events where you're closing a road, it doesn't have to be races.
What was that at right now? What's it called?
I believe the fee was, hang on.
Cause I think if we do
Yeah,
it,
I
we
thought it was
control
almost
it.
nothing. I mean, most of it is the cost for off-duty, if, officers to be there. Most of the cost incurred, I think, for events.
Do we pay for the off-duty?
No,
No.
the events would, that's what I'm saying, most of the cost for an event is to them
Got it.
directly.
All right, so I'll follow up on the current fee that we have. We'll
I
include
agree.
this-
I mean, I agree. I think signage is, we have 3-4 races a year through our neighborhood. Oak Grove, Hillmore, Oakmore, I mean, those streets are kind of used, and because it's a relatively small loop, it's a little bit harder to let people through. The roads tend to just kind of be closed for 30,
Right.
45 minutes an hour.
It'd be nice if the signs also said who the race organizers were and.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Call,
could be part of the-
call with concerns.
So that it had their information on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
In case there's a problem.
And I mean,
Yeah.
social media is great, but it's not.
Not everybody's gonna see it.
There are plenty of people
You
that
have
aren't
to
on there
plug
too.
into
so-
it, that's right.
Yeah.
Good thoughts. Okay, so I have with signs. We'll talk about the details around it, or the race organizer, who it is, time, and maybe even if it just says this road or similar roads. I think it would need to be at the intersections and such at each of the roads, and I think race organizers put those out. We would need to raise the fee some, probably, unless if we want to put it out, but I don't think we want to afford that, right? Didn't think so. Okay, would we want to, because said race organizers could just, pay their fee, come in and be like,
How do we enforce it?
how do we enforce it? If we notice they don't, just next time they come in, they, because most of the benefit is most of these races are recurring races that occur the next year. Because they're fundraisers. And I'm sure most race organizers will play well. So maybe we just tack on that at your next renewal fee if you were flagged for not
Yeah.
semi-reported.
Well, yeah,
use.
what is the mechanism that
That's,
could
it
be?
gets monotonous at that point.
I mean, canceling the race is, I don't know.
It's
how you-
extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I would say that, they are using in general, hiring our off-duty police officers, so they might have trouble doing that if they're not complying with stuff.
Gotcha. We can discuss that.
I do think we also need to discuss, if they're doing the signs, what the sign, do
I
they
was
need to be a
thinking,
certain size?
yeah,
What do they
color,
need, do
format,
they need to say,
so it's
whatever.
consistent, like the
Correct.
yellow BZA signs and
Yep.
such, or zoning.
But you're talking about more likely than not, one race organizer for all these races. It's the same group.
That's true.
Is it primarily?
Because they can just put it all on
Yeah.
Track Shack, and the other group, the one that did the race this weekend,
For the most part, it's the track shack.
yeah, it's a good point. We can probably talk to them too and just be like, hey, this is what we need done, here are the details.
I know we had the.
I guarantee you Jeff Martinez would be glad to come up here and talk with us about it.
Sure.
So,
I know we had the Girls on the Run race this year that was in our neighborhood instead of downtown Birmingham, and it sounded like they were shifting away from Birmingham permanently.
I think they are.
But are
that's
they
because-
also
that's
through
because
them?
They increased the fee by times 10,
Gotcha.
so no races won't pay that.
But are they, I guess, a race like that, is that through Track Shack too, or is that?
They probably use them for the administrative piece of it,
Yeah.
like
Okay,
the
for the
timing
timing and
shifts
stuff.
some
I gotcha.
badges, yeah.
Okay.
The bibs.
Yeah,
And I actually know the organizer of that race, I can ask her
okay,
about their plans.
sure.
Okay, good feedback, thank you, committee. Any other questions, comments, pro tips? Okay, we will carry over 07-03-23, pending further details. And if nobody wants to discuss any of the items on the table, public safety is adjourned.